Hey guys, Chris here, and I'm a Ukrainian Canadian. Today is March 15th, 2024, and let's get to the news happening in Ukraine, shall we? So I apologize in advance because I'm away from home and I do not have the microphone with me, so I apologize in advance if the audio isn't as good as usual. But I wanted to do a quick update because there's been a lot of things developing the last few days. And one thing to note, and the most important one, is that Ukraine has continued attacking oil refineries in Russia. Since my last update this week, pretty much on a daily basis, we've been seeing footage and pictures of Ukrainian drones flying over key Russian refineries and destroying or damaging them. And so this is something I've been talking about for years now, that Ukraine needs to absolutely do this almost on a daily basis. And it's good to see that this has been fully implemented as a strategy. And you're seeing Zelensky and other officials in Ukraine mentioning that this is their task now, is to deprive, as you can see here, the enemy of resources and reduce the flow of money and fuel. We understand that Russia makes most of its revenue from selling gas and oil and other raw resources. So it's absolutely crucial that Ukraine continues to hit where it really hurts Russia, and that is these refineries, these oil depots. And we've seen as well today, there's been an announcement from India that they have pretty much stopped purchasing Russian oil. So this is definitely going to hurt Russia even more. Again, this is going to be very slow, I think, degradation. It's not going to be like the impact isn't going to be felt right away. But I think by the end of the year, Russia is really going to start suffering and is going to lose a lot of money, which they're currently using to fund the war mostly. So Ukraine needs to intensify and damage, destroy as many refineries, oil terminals as possible, because we know that Russia can certainly adapt to this. They will certainly move air defense systems right beside the very key refineries. So Ukraine needs to absolutely, increase and intensify these attacks because we know that Russia certainly can learn from these sort of situations, and of course, because it really threatens their revenue stream, they will do everything possible to protect it. And meanwhile, unfortunately, Russia today responded. The only way they can respond is through terrorist attacks, and they have launched a bunch of missiles at Odessa, and unfortunately have killed many innocent civilians in Odessa today by hitting an apartment building complex. And so far, there are 20 deaths. So whereas Ukraine is strategically attacking infrastructure that is helping Russia's war effort, Russia is just terrorizing the Ukrainians, and that is their default, their default strategy. And as you have seen the last few days, Ukraine has hit. This is another hit from this morning in Kaluga region, not too far away from Moscow. Another really big refinery that was damaged through Ukrainian drone attacks. So that we've lost count at this point. But remember, a few days ago was Nizhny Novgorod and Ryazan that were attacked, and many other ones since 2024 in Tuapse near the Black Sea. So it's very good to see that Ukraine is really hitting Russia where it hurts them. Now, more international news. We're going to talk a little bit about Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, and it's very pleasant for me to hear what he has been saying the last few weeks. And you can definitely sense a complete 180 and a huge change from the tone, especially from the French, compared to, let's say, the early phase of the war in 2022, where you had Macron trying to call Putin, try to, have some sort of conversations and try to make a peace or negotiation between Ukraine and Russia, and he tried to broker that, and it just wasn't working. I think that Macron realizes now that it's absolutely pointless, that all these conversations have led to nothing, because he understands that Putin is a liar and a manipulator, and he will utilize diplomacy just to buy time for himself. And you've seen now in the last few days, he's been kind of the center of the attention, media attention, because he's been saying things like he is not ruling out the possibility of sending French troops to Ukraine if things, of course, don't go as well for Ukraine. We see massive advances on the Russian side. So I still think that for now, these are just words, but it's good to see this change of tone from the French side. And, I can also believe that this could be a way for Emmanuel Macron to win and score some few political points, but it doesn't, hurt Ukraine. I still think it's a good thing that we're having these conversations, and that it's also a win-win situation for France because they have a wonderful opportunity to become a continental power in which other nations in Europe specifically can rely upon for leadership. We've seen that the United States has backed away from taking this role, which is completely fine as well. This is up to the American people to decide, because it's fair to also understand that the United States has a lot on its shoulders to carry this sort of this role of being the world police. And I think that Europe should be able to handle any matters by themselves. And I think that France has realized that. Emmanuel Macron realized this opportunity, and it's good to see him take the lead. And, yesterday he had an interview on with some reporters, and here you can see that he was saying that if Russia were to win, the lives of French people would change, and we will no longer have security in Europe. The very fact that he's talking about this, presenting this to the French people, for them to think about it, is really important. And I love the fact that the narratives have really changed in Europe, and it's now less about how we can stop this escalation, how we can try to have some sort of peace with Russia. It's more about how we can beat Russia, because Russia's become a massive problem, especially in Europe. And European nations are becoming tired of this nuclear saber rattling that Putin is doing, his elites are doing, constantly threatening Europe that if you do this, we'll do that, right? And so I think it's good to see Macron and the French leadership take the lead in this context. And you can see that Europe in the last few weeks is feeling more confident as a result of that. Today, France, Germany, and Poland met to discuss further weapon assistance to Ukraine. Again, Scholz is more kind of in between, but the German government, to their credit, they have provided a lot of very large sums of money and assistance, weapons assistance to Ukraine. So this is good. You have Greece and Portugal as well that have today confirmed, or yesterday Portugal confirmed, that they've pitched in $100 million for the procurement of 800,000 shells, which was an initiative led by Czechia. And then today Greece also confirmed that they will pitch in, they will send ammunition to Ukraine, different types of ammunition and shells. And you see Bulgaria also sending a few, about 100 BTR-60s to Ukraine. The Baltics, the United Kingdom, also have always been very strong supporters of Ukraine. So you're seeing this confidence in Europe, which is very positive in my opinion. And more nations all around the world realize that Russia has become a massive problem, and they need to be dealt with, not with diplomacy only, but militarily, with force if necessary. And it's not an escalation. Russia started this, and Russia needs to pay the consequences for what they have done, not only to Ukraine, but to the entire world, essentially, by disturbing the global security system. So let me know what you guys think about his comments, and, potentially France being now a continental leader in Europe. And last but not least, today is the official day of the Tsar election. You guys know that, of course, Putin will be reelected. There's no doubt about it. He will win 150% of the votes, and it's officially started today. And there's some positive signs as well, because I've seen a lot of videos and footage from the polling stations all around Russia, where there's a few Russians that are protesting by either throwing ink at the ballot boxes, or burning the ballot boxes, or throwing Molotov cocktails at the polling stations. So it is positive, but they're a minority again. This is just a few instances here and there. But in the midst of all of this, we also know that, of course, there's been this incursion by the Free Russian Legion for the last 4 days now, and Russia still hasn't been able to handle this situation. Yes, it's not a massive incursion. Yes, it's not like the Free Russian Legion has penetrated, dozens of kilometers within Russia, but it is controlling several villages, between the border of Ukraine and Russia. And now there's about 8,000 civilians that have fled Belgorod and Kursk Oblast as a result of that, because essentially, the Russian regime is unable to handle the situation, and they can't drive out the Free Russian Legion. So this is, it's less about what kind of impact it can have For Ukraine, it's more about the psychological effects it has within the Kremlin. As I've said, um, you cannot underestimate the what is going on right now in the Kremlin. And I can certainly believe that some of these elites, these officials within the Kremlin are talking about it. It's been 3 times in the last year that Putin has lost essentially the control over his borders, whether it was through the Prigozhin mutiny or last summer where the Free Russian Legion did a similar type of incursion within Belgorod and managed to control certain villages for a few days. Putin has lost control several times in less than a year of Russia, and surely this is a huge issue because the only way that Putin will be removed is not through, as many believe, through public protests, or it really will be the elites that will decide whether they want to get rid of Putin or not. And that's why Putin has been on a crazy killing bender in the last few months, killing even recently the Lukoil VP was found, dead. He committed suicide, and we know that suicide in Russia is just an unfortunate fall from the window, or you didn't drink the right tea type of situation. But you see that Putin is just trying to get rid of all of these elites or officials that he doesn't trust, and because he knows that it's the only way that he will be killed is through them. So you see that Putin is unable to control the situation, and let's hope that the Free Russian Legion and all the other legions that take part of this incursion can control as much as possible and as long as possible to make this election as embarrassing for Putin as possible. Because right now in Belgorod, there's shelling. There's a lot of villages that are being shelled by either Russia or the Free Russian Legion, and it seems like Putin is completely incapable of handling the situation with its forces that he has. So this 3-day special military operation has somehow turned back towards Russia, which is very positive in my opinion. And it's good to see that there are Russian people taking action right now to fight the Putin regime. I've told you, I praise highly these people, but I still believe that they're a minority. Unfortunately, Putin has managed to convert a very, big, number of Russians towards his side through the brainwashing, the decades of brainwashing that he has been doing on the Russian population. But it's still very good to see that there are still many Russians fighting the Putin regime, such as the Free Russian Legion. So we will see what is going to happen in the next few days. But for sure, this weekend, I believe that there's still going to be a lot of action going on, and Ukraine needs to seize the opportunity to really embarrass and make Putin look like a fool, and psychologically have a massive impact on what's going on in the Kremlin. So that's the video for today, guys. I will make a video in the next few days, probably on Sunday, doing a small little map update. But that's about it. Let me know what you guys think about any of the topics I covered today. A huge thank you for support, and Slava Ukraini!